Imagine a world 5 degrees Celsius warmer than it is now. What would that world look like? This isn't just a hypothetical question. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, we're on a trajectory that could take us there if we continue with our current level of emissions. It's a future known as the business as usual scenario, and it's one we must strive to avoid. So how likely is a 5 degrees Celsius increase? Well, since the pre-industrial era, our planet's average temperature has already increased by about 1.1 degrees Celsius. If we stay the course, we're expected to hit an increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius by the year 2030 and 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. But that's not the end of the story. If we don't act to reduce emissions, the temperature could rise by 4 degrees Celsius by the year 2100 and by 5 degrees Celsius by 2300. That's the business as usual scenario. It's the worst possible future we could face, and it's one we should be doing everything in our power to prevent. Now let's delve into the consequences of a 5 degrees Celsius increase. Picture a world with several meters of sea level rise, drowning many coastal cities and islands. Envision severe droughts and floods wreaking havoc on food production and water availability. Imagine unprecedented heat waves and wildfires, particularly in the tropics, and a mass extinction event that could wipe out a large portion of the planet's biodiversity. Consider the increased risk of infectious diseases, malnutrition, conflicts, and a major disruption of the global economy and society. These impacts would be felt worldwide, with no region spared and the most vulnerable among us suffering the most. A 5 degrees Celsius increase is a worst-case scenario that could become reality if we fail to take action. This paints a grim picture of the future, but it's not too late to change our course. But to do that, we need to understand the gravity of the situation, and we need to act now. So what would happen if the Earth's average temperature increased by 5 degrees Celsius? Well, the short answer is catastrophe. Let's explore this further. First off, the sea levels would rise dramatically, several meters in fact. Picture this. Large swathes of coastal cities and islands, the homes and livelihoods of millions swallowed by the ocean, the world map as we know it forever altered. This isn't a scene from a science fiction movie, but a very real possibility. The weather patterns would become more extreme and unpredictable. We're talking severe droughts and floods wreaking havoc in many regions. Think about the implications on food production and water availability. Fields laid barren, rivers running dry, and people going hungry. Imagine the scorching heat waves, unlike anything we've ever experienced, leading to rampant wildfires, especially in the tropics. Forests, the lungs of our planet, reduced to ashes, and with it the homes and habitats of countless species. Speaking of species, we'd be staring at a mass extinction event. The loss of biodiversity would be staggering, entire ecosystems thrown out of balance with ripple effects that would impact all forms of life, including ours. Now let's talk about the societal disruption. With resources becoming scarce, the risk of infectious diseases, malnutrition, and conflicts would rise sharply. It's a grim picture, isn't it? And finally, the global economy would take a massive hit. Industries disrupted, supply chains broken, economies collapsing. The cost of inaction is simply too high. These impacts would be catastrophic, affecting every corner of the world. The most vulnerable among us, the poor, the marginalized, the island nations, would bear the brunt of it. It's a terrifying scenario, but one that we must confront if we are to change course and avert disaster. These aren't just doomsday prophecies. These are scientifically backed projections of a future that could very well be ours if we don't act now. Remember, the clock is ticking and every second counts. Now that we understand the consequences, it's clear that a 5 degrees Celsius increase is a scenario we must prevent. The importance of prevention cannot be overstressed. We're not just preserving the Earth for ourselves, but also for the generations to come. The Paris Agreement, signed by 196 parties in 2016, has set a global target to limit the increase in temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This target is not arbitrary, but scientifically backed. It is a lifeline that we should not let slip away. Preventing a temperature rise of 5 degrees Celsius starts with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. These gases, primarily carbon dioxide and methane, are the main drivers of climate change. They trap heat from the sun in our atmosphere, leading to a steady increase in our planet's temperature. To reduce these emissions, we need to rethink our relationship with energy. This starts with transitioning to renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydroelectric power. These sources of energy are not only sustainable, but they also produce significantly less greenhouse gases compared to fossil fuels. Improving energy efficiency is another essential step. By making our homes, vehicles, and industries more energy efficient, we can reduce the amount of energy we consume and thereby decrease our greenhouse gas emissions. Adopting low-carbon lifestyles is another way we can contribute to prevention. This could involve changes in our diet, transportation, and consumption habits. For instance, eating less meat, using public transportation or cycling, and buying fewer but more durable goods can all significantly reduce our carbon footprint. Supporting green policies and raising awareness about climate change are also key. We need to vote for leaders who prioritize climate action and educate others about the urgency of the issue. In conclusion, prevention is not about making sacrifices, but about making smarter choices for the planet and for ourselves. It is about understanding that our actions today will determine the world we live in tomorrow. Prevention is not only possible, but essential, and it requires urgent and collective action from all of us. Together, we can ensure that the Earth remains a habitable home for all its inhabitants. While it's important to understand the problem, it's equally imperative to comprehend the urgency of the situation. With the current trajectory of global warming, experts have painted a stark timeline. If we continue at this accelerated pace, we could see a 5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature by the end of the century. This projection is based on the current annual increase of 0.02 degrees Celsius, influenced by factors such as carbon dioxide emissions, deforestation, and excessive energy consumption. Such a drastic rise in temperature is not a distant possibility. It's a looming reality where we're fast approaching. The ramifications are indeed severe, ranging from rising sea levels and flooding coastal cities to more frequent and extreme weather events. At an individual level, we have the power to slow down this catastrophic progression by adopting eco-friendly habits. Switching to renewable energy sources like solar and wind power can drastically cut the greenhouse gases we emit, making our homes and workplaces more energy efficient with energy-saving appliances and insulation can further reduce emissions. Opting for greener modes of transport, such as public transportation, cycling, or walking over using cars, can also help limit the carbon footprint. As a society, we must urgently advocate for green policies and laws that limit emissions and promote sustainable. We need to elect leaders who prioritize the environment and demand corporations to be held accountable for their environmental impact. As the clock ticks faster towards this 5 degrees Celsius rise, it's our collective responsibility to act now to prevent this calamitous trajectory and protect our planet for the future generations. The time to act is not tomorrow, next week, or next year. It's right now. If this information alarms you, don't forget to like and subscribe, and join us next time as we dig deeper into the urgency of our planet's predicament.